Hi, everybody. This is a quick intro before the intro, and I just wanted to just say that this could be a trigger for some. So if you, it's a trigger of discussing living children. So please, if you would like to jump ahead about a minute in, and you can go ahead and skip this if you think this is going to be difficult to listen to. So thank you. Hi all, this is Winter, and I just wanted to quickly come on and give you a little bit of update of what's happening. Lee and I had just recently had a little bit of a life update, a life change, I guess. We were pregnant during the pandemic, and I gave birth to our son at the end of 2020. And so, as you probably may have noticed, some of our episodes have been a little sporadic the last couple of months and will likely be sporadic for the following months. So I just wanted to come on and let you guys know what was happening. And we are super grateful for this community, and we plan on getting stories out to you because we still think this is very important. It has been so beneficial to us to be involved in this community that we feel so close. We feel so close to you, and we're so grateful that we have been able to bring these stories to you. So please be patient with us if you send emails to us, or if you are waiting for more episodes to come out. We will get them to you for sure. So thank you so much. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so, so much.
Dane Thomas. I want to remember always his sweet little face and how he was and always will be my third child and my only boy.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a podcast where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter Red, and on this episode, Cristen is telling the story of her son Dane, who was stillborn at 35 weeks due to a funic presentation of the umbilical cord, where the cord was prolapsed and became crimped. As a word of caution to our listeners, this story contains emotional triggers of stillbirth and infant loss. Please keep yourself emotionally and mentally healthy and seek help if needed. Please respect our moms and dads who are brave and gracious to share their children with us. Cristen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your story of Dane today. So just to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your family and where you guys are from and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, my name's Cristen, and I'm from Orange County, California. And I've been married to my husband, Aaron. We just celebrated 8 years in June.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We got married in 2012. We have 2 girls. Marlo is my oldest. She'll be 5 in October. And then we have Gwen, who just turned 2 in April. So 2 girls. And right now, what have we been doing? Well, we've had a lot of togetherness because,
Right.
During this time, well, we've been on, a stay-at-home order, and then the court, now it's just kind of everything's a little not so normal. So we've been going to the beach a lot, and we have a pool that we like to go to, and the girls love the park, and seeing friends here and there, but basically just hanging out as a family. And I actually own my own PR and marketing firm, so I work mostly part-time, and I love to cook, and we're just see my friends when I can and be together as a family. So
Yeah, it sounds like you keep busy and such, so that's wonderful. And so you guys were living in California at the time of Dane's birth /
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we are in the home that we lived in when Dane was born. Yeah, we've lived here for about 2 years.
And out of just for some reference, when was Dane born at the time of this recording? How long ago?
It's August today, so he was born May 7th, so about 3 months ago, as this is being recorded.
Oh, you are so new.
Yeah,
it's
very new, and it's. I wish I could say it's getting easier, but it's like everyone has told me, it comes in waves, and some days are better than others.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And how did that pregnancy go? So you have your two girls.
Yeah, so we had
Was
our two
uh-huh.
girls, and I come from a family of three, and Aaron just has his sister. But I kind of always imagined myself with three kids, and Aaron was kind of on the fence, so that took a little talking into. And we were both like, okay, well, it doesn't matter, what the gender is. We just want, a bigger family. I just imagined, kind of chaos and kids running around, and I was like, it's a long-term plan, Aaron. I'm like, when we're 60, we're going to look back and we'll have these three kids and their grandkids, and we'll be, big family reunions. And so we were like, okay, let's do it. We both agreed that it was the best decision for our family. So last summer, I think I started trying in like July and then August, and then I was doing the ovulation sticks, and I wasn't too crazy about like trying to have a boy, but I did want to, the closer you are to, you know, having sex when you ovulate is
Right.
a higher chance of it being a boy.
Yeah.
But I also heard that that's not, not that true. So anyways, we got the positive pregnancy test in September, and we were so excited. And I couldn't believe it. I was kind of in shock at first, just like, oh my gosh, three, that means, a different car. And that means, when you fly, it's, there's so many logistics, I feel like, going from two to three that just like you have to kind of like wrap your head around. And we
Mm-hmm.
definitely were like, we've got 9 months to figure it out. And, we had a lot of fun telling the girls. And when it was time to find out the gender, we did a cupcake reveal and had my daughter, Marlo. She bit the cupcake and it was taking forever. So Aaron and I were like, just come on, like we just need to know. And it was blue. And my heart, I was so excited. And it
Oh,
wasn't, I would have been fine if it was a girl, but just those dynamics of seeing a father son, and people tell me like, oh, there's the mother son relationship. No one will love you more than your son, and things like that. Just I was like, gosh, I felt so lucky, and I told Aaron, I go, gosh, this feels like too good to be true. I just always saw myself with like three girls, and I was so grateful that Aaron would have this opportunity to be a father to a son. And, I think it heals some wounds that you have with your parents when
yeah.
you're able to have that relationship. So, we were both thinking about him surfing and just planning our life with him. It looked perfect to me. And, throughout the process of, probably September to February, we painted my daughter Gwen's room. We painted the wall dark blue. I started, purchasing some clothes just because I was like, well, and friends have given me bins of clothes, of boy clothes. I got, a best brother shirt. I say all these things just because he was so wanted, and
Yeah.
he was really going. I don't like when people say complete the family, because I feel like every family is complete as it is, but I just felt so much hope and just so much excitement. And so we, did all those things. We went on a couple of vacations with him, which were really nice. And then around my birthday, March 15th, we got the stay-at-home order. So my husband works in the garment business, and he in apparel. And so he was working at home for a little bit, but he's on the phone all the time. And I'm like, you just go to your office. It's like, I think you need to do that. So the girls leave you alone. And he was basically working in his office by himself and his business partner. But so the girls and I, for about 8 or 9 weeks, every day we would just scooter and make lunch and hang out in the backyard. And I was pregnant. And I remember my friends being like, how are you doing this, pregnant and not? And I'm like, well, you know what? I just have to get to June 8th, and Dane will be here, and we'll have it was in a time of such uncertainty. The one thing that was certain to me was that I would have my son on June 8th. And
Yeah.
it was just like this, like, all I could see was the future. Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, right now it's so uncertain. It's scary. It's, I remember it was the time we we're all buying rice and pasta and toilet paper. And I was like, it's okay. I'll just get to June 8th. And who cares if we have to be home? I'm going to have a newborn. The girls are going to love it. We'll just do the blow up pool. Like, in my head, I was like, just get to June 8th. And
Yeah.
so I tried to have a good attitude. And, the days were really hard. And, I was tired, but overall his pregnancy was really textbook. Like all the doctor's appointments were in and out in like 10 minutes. No, 20-week scan, everything perfect. I went all the way to my 32-week appointment
Mm-hmm.
in April. Uh, and everything looked good. I can remember the tech talking to me. We were going over names, and I said how I liked the name Walter. And I can remember her saying, "Oh, my," and it was chatty, it was easy. And they told me at my 32-week appointment, they're like, since we're in the middle of a pandemic, at your 34-week appointment, if you are feeling good, if you are feeling movement, let's just have a telemedicine appointment. You don't need to come in.
Okay.
And so that was late April. Um, and on the 34-week appointment, Aaron was very busy with work because he had pivoted from apparel into making masks. So he was
Oh,
making
mm-hmm.
masks for lots of large corporations and was slammed with work. And my daughter had Zoom calls. And so I was like, you know what? If I don't have to go to the doctor today, and I didn't have coverage, I didn't have a nanny, I didn't have, we weren't really seeing family because I didn't want the grandmas to get sick. It
Right.
just
Of
was an
course. Yes.
odd, and I had booked this appointment at 9:15, thinking that I would drop Marlo off at school, but everything was so different now. So we were, and I'll get into it, but I didn't go to that appointment on the 34 week. And
Did you feel good at that time though?
I felt so good. I can remember I sat on the couch and I called the doctor and I'm like, and they're like, how's the movement? I'm like, it's great. And I could remember holding my stomach on the couch and he was doing like dance. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
can see
You
it
could
and you're like,
totally see it. Okay.
I'm like, he's great. And they're like, it's your third. Don't worry. Everything's fine. We'll see you at your 36 and we'll do your final ultrasound and we'll, that'll be that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll call you. And they're like, call at any time in between these 2 weeks if anything happens. And so I was like, okay. And I just went about my business. And then probably the weekend, so that was 34 weeks, 35 weeks was that Monday. And, everything happened on that Wednesday. And I felt fine. I just, that Sunday night, I hope this is making sense the way I'm kind of
Yeah. You're fine.
hearing it.
Yeah. You're
But
fine.
that Sunday night, I remember laying on the couch. My little girl was on me, and then the older one came running in and kind of like landed on my stomach on that Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
She came in really like fast, and it made me yell like, "Oh my, like stop!" Like, and my husband's like, "Whoa, that was kind of an overreaction." I'm like, "No, she like really like hit my stomach hard," and I was like, and I knew I was like, I'm sure that's nothing, and but it made me hyper aware of his movement, and I don't know if and to jump ahead, the doctors have told me that that has had nothing to do with what happened, but it just made me super hyper aware
Mm-hmm.
of his movement. And so Monday came and I was like, maybe he's sleepy, he's getting big in there. And it's like, it's one of those things that looking back, I'm wondering why I wasn't like freaking out, but I just was like, it just never crossed my mind. It never was a thought in my mind that he wouldn't make it or that he wasn't okay. And so Tuesday came, and I remember we were with the same old day, and we had actually released butterflies that night, Tuesday night, because we had, something to do. And so we grew the little butterflies anyways. And so I remember Tuesday night, and then I just felt like, okay, if I don't feel him tonight, going to bed, because that's when I would always feel him. I wasn't counting kicks, but I just knew his times a day. And at night he would always kick. And that night I was like, gosh, this is quiet. And I started getting very anxious. And so Wednesday morning, May 6th, I woke up and I just started like crying. And I was like, Aaron, I am freaking out about the baby. I know he's going to be fine, but I'm just like kind of freaking out. Like I just feel like his movement is just, he's not doing what he normally does.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like my emotion and that like I couldn't hide from it anymore. Like I feel like looking back, I was hiding from the fact that he had been quiet and not moving, maybe for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I went on a walk Tuesday morning. So I felt like they were maybe like Braxton Hicks or contracting, because what was so confusing is that my stomach, like there was movement of like hardening, and looking back now, I was contracting. And you would think, to play devil's advocate, well, you've had 2 kids. How did you not know you were contracting? But it felt different.
Yeah.
I wasn't in any pain. It was just like my stomach hardening and kind of like his head coming out. Like I was like, he's still moving. And even when I was in the hospital, I'm like, I can still, his body is moving, but he's not kicking. He's not, so get back to Wednesday morning. Erin's like, you need to call the doctor. Just call the doctor and see what they'll do. I'm like, okay. And you and as every mother, you don't want to be a burden and mess up the flow of the morning. So my daughter got started on her Zoom. I called the doctor, and the nurse practitioner's like, just come in. The fetal monitoring's, closed right now, but you can go to the triage, just get checked. And I'm like, well, what are their hours? And she's like, Cristen, she's like, just go and check it out. You don't even want to think about what the alternative would be. And so I started like panicking. I'm like, okay, let's just get this checked out. And I told Erin, I'm like, okay, I'll be back in an hour, finish Marlo's Zoom, and then I'll be back by like 10 o'clock. So it was 9:30. I got dressed and just took my purse and got in the car. And I just, at this point, I was like, I think something is wrong, but I did not know what I was going to hear. And so I said bye to Erin, even say bye to the girls. I remember I had taken the plants out to get some sun. I started a load of laundry, just a normal morning. But this was something I had to do. So we live really close to our hospital, just like 10 minutes away. And so I got in the car, and I remember usually I would call my friend and, gosh, he's not moving. I'm going to the doctor. But I just didn't want to tell it. I didn't want to say it out loud. I just wanted to get this and then tell my friends, like, gosh, you won't believe, I had a scare, but everything's okay. And so I parked, and when I was in the car, I remember touching my stomach, and I'm like, baby, just come and just give me one kick. Just put my mind at ease. Just please, God. Just please, God. I remember, and I'm not a very religious person, but I was like, please, Lord, just give me one kick. Just tell me you're okay, because I'm freaking out. And so I parked, and I went, and it was, of course, fucking COVID. So I couldn't get into the entry. I had to go around the back. They're very worried about pregnant mothers, and the girl couldn't find the triage floor, so it was taking forever. And I got to the triage, and they're like, what are you here for? And I'm like, and I just burst into tears. I'm like, I'm having low movement. I'm having low movement. So they were like, oh, let's get her into a room. She's emotional. So they had to hide me. And and it was very quiet. There was nobody else really on the floor, a bunch of nurses kind of in the station, and they put me in the room and laid back. And the nurse was very sweet, and she had the Doppler. And I remember just laying on the table, just kind of squeezing my eyes shut, just trying to take a deep breath. And my heart was just pounding, I've never heard my heart beat like that. And ever. And she got the Doppler out, and I'm like, well, last time, I was at the ultrasound, he was breech. And so, and moving backwards, my first daughter was breech, and I had a C-section. My second daughter flipped, and I was able to have a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And so I was hoping that Dane, I went to a C-section, so I was hoping that he was head down. But I told her, I go, he was breech. I don't know if that helps. Find the, she's scanning it. And I, again, was like, please, no, please, just please have that noise, to have the ba-bump, 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 please, 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 please. And she wasn't picking it up. And she's like, I think there's a low heart rate. And so I had a little bit of hope, and I was like, oh God, thank you. And I texted Erin, I'm like, they think it's a heart rate. But she's going to get the ultrasound tech in here, but I think you should come. I think just put the girls. So he put the girls over at our neighbor's house, and he came to the hospital. And so between the time that I had an ultrasound by another doctor, and she scanned my stomach, and it was really quiet. And I just knew then. This is my third kid. I know you find that heartbeat fast. You find it fast. You don't, there's not a delay. It's not a position he's in. It's not. And so she's like, I'm so sorry. There's no heartbeat. But it might be my machine. Like, I think every trying to pass the buck to not tell me. So then I like, oh my God, you're holding on like a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And they brought the third machine in, the third ultrasound. And this lady that just did not have good bedside manner. I think she was like an ultrasound tech specialist. It was like the highest, ultrasound that they could see. And she was like, very blunt. She's like, there's no heartbeat. Do you want to look at the screen? And I just remember like I just like screamed out like what? Like what? No, no. Like there's are you kidding me? Like I just remember being like, you have to be kidding. Like, no, there's no heartbeat. And the nurse was holding my hand and I was alone because Aaron wasn't there. And this was the last thing I was expecting. And she's like, do you want to look at the screen? And I looked at the screen and I saw him and he was, he was so beautiful. And it was his perfect little head. And what just drives me crazy through this whole process is that he had nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with him. There was no gestational diabetes. There was no growth concerns. He was perfect. He was so perfect. And what I think back, if I went to that 34-week appointment, we would have had an emergency C-section and he would have been here. And, I am working on it, but that has stayed with me, not going to that appointment. But my doctor has let me know that isn't the case. But it's still something that I live with. And so Aaron arrived, sorry to jump around, but Aaron arrived to the triage room and I had to tell him that there was no heartbeat. And I've never in my life seen him, he just broke, like he wailed. And I've never seen him. And I was almost caught off guard by his reaction because I don't think I processed it because I was kind of like, well, me, I don't know. I honestly, I just think and I've read that your brain can kind of turn off for you, and I feel like my brain was protecting me from what was really going on because a lot of that day I was just like kind of action oriented and Aaron was able to like really process what was going on. So he would just break down all the time. And so we finally had my doctor come in, my OB that delivered my two other girls. And I looked at her and I go, how did this happen? I just saw you. You've had me in and out of your office within 5 minutes because there's been nothing wrong. How did this happen? And she's like, could these things just happen? And I just was like, you gotta be kidding. I couldn't even, my brain couldn't even go there yet. I was like, there's no way. And then part of me, I didn't even click to me that you have to deliver and that I don't know. It just, in my head, I was just like, well, I came to and I was like, oh my, now what's next? And she's like, well, you can go home. And I'm like, I'm not going home. I need to, I was really action oriented. I wanted to just, let's go. Let's get it. I need to go. I need to have him out. I need to begin. I wanted this day over. I wanted to be home and I wanted this day over because I'm like, this is going to be the worst day of my life. And I know that as soon as I get home and as soon as I see my girls and I can start over. And so she gave us options and Aaron at first was like, you have to have a C-section. Like, how are you going to push? How are you going to deliver that? He's like, that is so emotionally scarring. Like, how will you deliver that baby? And our doctor was like, you could have a C-section, we could do that. I had a smoothie for breakfast, so you have to like wait a certain amount of time. She's like, we could do that this afternoon, or we can try inducing you, and you can have it vaginally. And if you ever want to have more kids, that is the better route. And so I was like, okay. Once we kind of thought about it, I was like, let's start the induction. And so after talking to her, we kind of got the wheels in motion and they wheeled me up to the labor delivery floor. And I'll never forget, we walked in and the book, it was Empty Cradle, Broken Heart or something, like on the bed. And I told the nurse, I'm like, you need to please remove that. I do not want to see that right now. Um, like, please, please put the book. And there was like a packet, and I just did not want to accept it yet. And I, maybe in my head, I thought, maybe he'll come back. Like, when I deliver, like, you deliver a baby, he's alive. I never have, I've heard of this before, but I was like, I don't know if I was holding on to a shred of hope. And so I just, anything to tell me differently. And so I had them put the books away. I had them put all the papers away. I didn't want to see that. And they had a really hard time finding my IV. They had 3 different people come in, and they ultimately had to get sound tech to find my IV. So that was, and this girl's like, oh, we're just having bad luck. And I remember telling her, I'm like, I don't think today's my day. And I just kept crying in front of the nurses and apologizing to them because I just felt bad for them. I don't know why, but I felt really bad for the nurses. And so we were in that room, and it was like 12:30, and I had called only one person. I called my best friend, and I told her when I was still in the triage, I was like, the baby doesn't have a heartbeat. It was short and brief, and she just couldn't believe it and kept saying no, no, no. And then Aaron had to call our family. And I haven't, even to this, I haven't really, I know those phone calls were hard, but I didn't even really ask the details. I don't even know if I want to know what, their reactions were. But he called my mom and his mom, and his mom came to be with the girls, and he called my dad. And then while we were in the room, I didn't have any clothes or anything because
you weren't expecting it.
Yeah, I didn't know that was happening. And so he went home at one point because I was trying to tell him, like, this is going to take forever. I've had friends like induced, and it's like a 24-hour process. I'm like, I might not even take to the induction and have to have a C-section. I'm like, you can go home and get us, get yourself a change of clothes, get me a change of clothes. And I gave him a list. I wear glasses or contacts, so I needed those and my glasses. And so he went home, and I remember him telling me when he went home and saw the girls, like, our youngest just gave him a really big hug. And he said it was really hard to see them, and they didn't know what was going on. And at the time, our neighbors who they were staying with, she was pregnant at the same time as me. And she ended up having her son on Dane's due date. So we had that connection. And so the girls came back to be with Aaron's mom, and Aaron came back, and I remember having a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and just I just remember being like, what is happening? Like, I just remember being like, I need to wake up. I thought it literally felt like I was in an alternate universe. It felt just like the world as I knew it was over. Like, I had been one person before, and now, this was a whole new realm. And we just, to be at the hospital that I had the 2 girls at, and how much I was looking forward to having that night with Dane in the hospital. And it just was not what I had in mind. And so the induction worked, which was good. And we it was a full moon. I remember the nurse on call told me, I'm like, is it busy out there? I don't know why I was asking, but she's like, yeah, it's a full moon. She's like, there's a lot of births tonight. And I just thought that was interesting, and it stayed with me. And so, like, around midnight, I think I was like a 6 or 7 dilated. And I remember I was watching like a Nancy Meyers film and on the TV, and Aaron had fallen asleep. And then I remember, kind of funny, I was watching the Kardashians, and I felt, and I got an epidural, and I just felt like a lot of, like, I knew it was nearing the time of push. And so I'm like, Aaron, you need to turn that off. I can't have that on. Like, we can't have that on. And I wasn't able to sleep because they kept changing me from side to side for the epidural to have it not pool. And even though it did on a right side, I had a lot of pain in my right side. So they kept upping the epidural because I was like, I really don't want to feel any of this unnecessary pain
Yeah.
I'm already feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, I'm like, just like up it. I'm like, just let's go to the max. So the epidural worked. And it was around, I think, like 4 a.m. And they checked me and they're like, yeah, it's time to go. We'll get the doctor. And my doctor, I'm not sure if she was on call or not. She had come back or stayed on call to deliver him. And so I really felt the urge to push. And they're like, you gotta wait, which is the worst. So I was just like holding back. And Aaron was up by me holding my hand. And I think at that point we couldn't believe what we were about to do or see. And I was scared. I was really scared. And I was scared for myself too, because I was like, if this is happening, why, then I was like, what if something happens to me? If is it something, do I have something that I don't know about yet? So all these thoughts go through your head. And I was like, I was really scared. So the doctor came and the room was really dark. It was like 4:20 in the morning, and I remember the light of the moon. It was a full moon, and it was that was really the only light in the moon. It was from the moon. Sorry, I said moon like 3 times. But it was time to push, and his head came out, and then pushed just like 2 more times, and his body came out. And it was just so quiet. The room was so quiet. And having had my 2 girls before, that's such a joyous moment. That's such a celebration. That's such like new life and a baby wailing. Like I took for granted what that felt like. And he was just, I can't even describe it. It was just the hardest, most painful, like, and then I was like, oh my God, it's real. He's not coming, he's not alive. And he was, and I remember the nurse, he was like, he's so beautiful. And I almost didn't want her to tell me that. I almost told her to stop because I was like, I can't have you tell me how beautiful he is. It was so unnatural for me to be in that position and to have this experience with him, someone we have been thinking about and dreaming about for 35 weeks and a half, that this is his outcome. It was just the start of just the most unfair, cruelest, just punishment. I feel like we've been punished, our whole family, for something that we haven't done. And so he was born, and he weighed 5 pounds and 9 ounces. He was a good size. And I always tell my friend, I'm like, gosh, he weighed more than her. He would have been fine, you know? And that's what kills me. It's not like he came out and was 2 pounds and would have been on, and then he would have been home with us in 2 days if we got him out. But when he came out, he had the cord wrapped around his neck. And I remember asking the doctor, I'm like, is the cord around his neck? And she said the cord's around his neck and it's compressed against his forehead. So it had been around his neck and just kind of crimped right here. And so we've later learned that he had a funic cord. And so that's when the cord is lower in the uterus. So what I believe happened is, sorry to jump around, but he was breech and he went because he was head down when I
Uh-huh.
delivered. And so I believe when he did that, he in a way landed on the cord because my cord was basically pooled lower than him
Mm-hmm.
and compressed the cord. And so he's unable to get oxygen. And they said, because I was real worried, I'm like, because I can't, I was like, how long, I wanted answers. I was like, how long has he been, like this inside of me? And she's like, only a day or so. And so that made me feel better because I mean, not like I just had an appointment, so but I just didn't, you never know. So they wrapped him up and put a little beanie on him. And she's like, "Do you want to see your baby?" And I said, it was really hard. It felt the only word it's just so unnatural that I would be seeing a, a baby way. I don't like using the word dead. It's too much. And I'm like, okay, I'll see him. And so they kind of wheeled him over, and his eyes were open, which I did not expect. They were kind of open, and my girls have really big, beautiful eyes, and so did my husband and I. And his eyes were a little smaller, and he didn't look like he looked like my youngest Gwen, and he had a perfect little nose and a little mouth, and his face had a little tear on the skin, which I know happens. And so he was in, the clear little bassinet by us for a while, and they're like, "Do you want to hold him?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll hold him." And so I held him and I kissed him, and he felt a little cold, and it just was. I beat myself up about not spending more time with him, but part of me knew, and my husband reassured me. He's like, "That's not it. That's not him. His soul has gone on." And that's not him. I believe he was with us during that time, but I holding him and like cuddling him and looking at every feature, which I really, really wish I did, it just didn't feel right to me. And I know every story is different, but it just felt I felt and I beat myself about it every day because I don't think I knew, and which sounds silly, but I just didn't know that would be the only time I'd have with him. And so, and the doctors, they made it, they made it pretty clear to me, what next steps would be. But we had a hard time holding him and airing him for a little bit. And, I remember Aaron just putting his hand on him and kept saying, like, "My son," um, like, "Hey, buddy," and we shared with him some things we wanted to do with him. We told him about his sisters and how we were just so sorry. We were so sorry. And I just kept apologizing to him because he doesn't get to live his life. And that's the hardest part, is just like what he is going to miss out on. And I don't believe he is in a better place. I don't believe it happened for a reason. I don't believe it was God's plan. I think he would deserve to be with us. And I hope he finds us again. But I just know that we could have given him such an amazing life, an amazing future, and he would have had a family that just gushed over him, and to have his older sisters. And it's just so unfair. And I have a very hard time with people telling me. A lot of people haven't told me that it happens for a reason, so I should give people credit. But if anybody out there is told it
Yeah.
happens for a reason, you
Yeah.
can tell them
Yeah.
I say that's not the case. But they then wheeled him away to go have some photographs taken, and I at some point a what is it called? The people that come in and talk to you, not child service. What are they called?
Like a
Social
social
service
worker.
or
Yeah, probably a
yeah,
social worker.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they came in and kind of let us know if we wanted to. You start having to make decisions that you're like not prepared to make. And so we decided to have him cremated. I don't have a plot yet. I don't, I'm 34 years old. So we were like, in our heads, we're like, we can have him cremated and then he can be buried. I'd like to be buried one day so he can be buried with me, which I think is, something sweet. And when we
Yeah.
move, he comes with us, and it felt right to do that. So, um, he had gone away and had the now we lay me down to sleep. People
Mm-hmm.
take pictures. Um, and then Aaron wanted him to come back in to say again. And I remember just being like, Aaron, oh my, we just did that. Do we have to do it again? Like I just, it was so hard for me. And I know there's people that spend the whole day with them and get the cuddle cots, but I just knew that wasn't him. I knew I just in holding his unborn, his lifeless, it just felt so wrong to me that was going to be our experience. And what, keeps me up at night is that I didn't spend more time with him. And, you don't listen to these stories and you don't read up on stillborn and what you're supposed to do before you have the baby.
No, you don't at all.
Yeah. And it's not, I didn't even have it in me to Google, what should I do in the hospital when I have a stillborn? Like I was just kind of like on autopilot, just trying to go through the motions. And luckily the hospital took his handprints and his footprints. And we have his clothes that they put him in and his little onesie. And he was wheeled back in again. And we each held him one more time. And we said goodbye again, and then we'll see you again. Um, and just how loved he was, how wanted he was, and that he'll always be a part of our family. And that's my son, and when he was wheeled away, I don't think I was processing enough to know that that was it, you know? I don't I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but it's almost too much for your heart to bear. Um, and the logistics of getting him to the funeral home were all taken care of, so we didn't have to worry about that, which was really nice. And the hospital did a really nice job making us comfortable. I kind of wish they pushed a little more on spending time with him and holding him, just because I don't think I was in the right frame of mind. But and we took a couple pictures on my phone, but I felt like I was doing something wrong photographing it. Like it felt like taking pictures at a funeral of an open casket. Like it just felt like, why am I photographing that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense,
Oh,
but it just felt
yeah. It's
like,
yeah, this is not the way it's supposed to be. It's yeah.
oh, and I was like, this is so horrible.
Yes.
It,
Horrible is exactly what it is.
horrible. And I just remember being so uncomfortable with that. But it kills me because you go down the rabbit hole of social media and people that have all the wonderful photos with their son. And I don't have that. And that really hurts me. I really wish I got a photo with him because I'm like, that was my only chance, but I know I have to stand by and own what I did in that room. That was right for me at the time. 3 months later, I could, if I was to do it all over again, I would have done things differently. But that's our reality, and I'm okay with it. That's fine. So I had a really easy delivery. I didn't tear. I was able to kind of shower, and I wanted to go home. We didn't, and I know a lot of people have family come visit, but it was also during COVID, so you couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't
They didn't.
anyway.
You can have one person in there at a time, and
Yeah.
I think even if it wasn't, I don't know if I would have people. I don't know. It just that would have helped my family understand what we went through a lot more. I think I have to educate a lot of people on that it was a delivery and it was a birth. It wasn't a miscarriage.
Yep.
Um, which I know miscarriages are very painful too, but this is completely different. He was, a little boy. He was a little baby. And I sometimes when I'm deep in my pain and my grieving and I kind of give myself a hard time, like you should cuss. Wow. Are you not like, are you over this yet? But I'm just, gosh, this is really taking up a lot of my headspace in every hour. And I have to remind myself, like, you lost a son. That was your baby. He wasn't a grouping of cells. He wasn't, he was 5 pounds, 9 ounces little boy, and that's what I'm working on. And, it's okay to be really, really sad about it because it's so sad and it's not right. Nobody expects that you're going to lose your child. It's unnatural in the chain of events. It doesn't, and I think people being brave and telling their stories really, and it happens to everybody. I thought, oh, maybe this just happens to people that don't take care of themselves, or people that are reckless, or but I've learned, feta cheese isn't going to cause this,
Yeah.
and an extra coffee isn't going to cause this. And the hospital would tell me, God, it breaks our heart. We'll have people, that have done drugs and have healthy babies, and then there's people like you that haven't, done anything wrong, and your baby passes away.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really hard, is just coming to terms with these things happen.
Yeah.
And it's an alternate universe now for us. And so, sorry, I'm jumping around, but we came home, and I remember the nurse wanted to wheel me out in a wheelchair with a little box of his goodies, like, his clothing and footprints. And my husband was like, there is no way she is being wheeled out of here past all the moms and, the people walking their babies around the hall. We will walk out of here, and she is fine. And so I appreciated that, because I did not want to do that. And luckily they took me out a back way as to not see anything. Thank goodness. And I actually even drove myself home because Aaron's car was there too.
Right.
And I had driven myself there. So I felt, physically I was fine, but emotionally it was a different story. And then we got home, and, I've just been starting the process. The house was filled, with flowers, and we had an outpouring of support from friends and people, neighbors that I wasn't even that close with drop off groceries. My really good high school friends set up, having dinners there for us when we came home, which was really sweet. And just flowers, people being really thoughtful with toys for the girls to keep them busy.
Oh.
And it was weird though, because I couldn't really like see or hug anyone, because it was, May 7th. We were still kind of in the thick of it.
Yeah. People were just dropping stuff off, I'm assuming, and going.
Dropping stuff off, which was kind of fine with me. And then that weekend, so we came home on a Thursday. We were able to come back that same. So I delivered him at 4 a.m. and then we came home by like 1 p.m.
Oh, okay.
That same day. So,
and you were feeling good, right? You were feeling.
Yeah. And that Sunday was Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which was really horrible timing. And my milk came in, and that was insane. And, you still bleed. It's not like any of the physical things that don't get, it's like, okay, well, she didn't get the baby, so let's maybe not let the milk come in, or like, doesn't work that way.
No.
You're still engorged, you're still bleeding, and your hormones are all over the place. And I remember those first couple weeks, the mornings were always really hard. Like, I remember I would just go into our little playroom and sit on the couch and just cry at like 5 a.m. before my girls would wake up, because I had to be with them. You don't stop being a mom. And I would just want to scream. And the mornings, at night, I don't know why the mornings were always really hard for me. I remember just thinking like, gosh, maybe I'll wake up, or it was not real. And, reality's set in now. I don't wake up crying every morning, but, there's triggers. There's stuff that you're going to have to go through. And if I don't know what stage people are at listening to this, but, picking up his ashes was really, really hard. Really hard. Having to hold him like that. And I would just get so mad at myself, or not mad at myself, but mad at the situation, to be like, God, I'm holding his ashes. He should be in the back seat in a car seat right now. Why is this my reality? Why is this happening to me? What I would think with the universe, like, God, what did I do? Like, oh my God, am I being punished for something? Like, is this, and I know that's not true, but the mind is so powerful. And I went on I went on Zoloft. I think I got it that Saturday, um, because the doctor thought it was a good idea, and I did too. And so I was on Zoloft for about a month and a half, and then I remember seeing my youngest hold the baby across the street that had been born, and I didn't have like a ton of reaction to it. And I remember telling my husband, I'm like, I got to get off this. I'm like, I feel
Mm,
like I am not growing. I'm not dealing with these triggers and trauma as they should be. And so now, having been off of it, I'm able to, but I think that it was to function and to be a mom,
kind of
I needed
transition.
that padding.
Yeah.
Um, because like that Friday, I got home that Thursday. That Friday, I was on a Zoom call with my daughter for her Mother's Day little Zoom. And like you just, there's no, and that's why, you never know what someone's going through. And no one on that screen knew what I had just done the night before. Like it's just, you just have to, and I know there's people that if it's their first child, you can stay in bed and process and cry, and that's nice, but it's also nice to have your kids as a distraction. I don't think there's one situation better than
Mm.
the other, but having to get up and be with them and be on as a mom, it was hard, but it also gave me a lot of purpose when I just wanted, and they saw me cry, and we told our oldest that Dane wasn't gonna be coming home, and that she has a brother in heaven now, and some babies don't get to come home, and it's not fair, but he's in heaven. He got to go to heaven, and how lucky are you that you have a baby brother now going to watch over you. And we picked a star out in the sky that she can look at, and sometimes when she wants to get out of bed, she'll ask to go see the star, and I can never say no. Uh, so she's been handling it well, and the little one's a little too young. But there was a lot of stuff kind of right after, like they would hug me really hard, and they'd be like, "Oh, sorry," because they were so used to me having a belly, and then my daughter would be like, "Oh, it's okay, he's not there anymore." So your heart is just like, oh,
Yeah.
like there was just stuff like that over and over again. And, running into people for the first time that might have found out or might have heard just that, you know, it's a really hard, long, and dark road. And I feel like people that are listening to this likely just went through something. And I think the reason I'm doing it is just to share my story and give people hope that, you'll survive it, but it's a pain I've never felt before. It's I literally I feel like my heart is broken, and I feel like the inside of me is like shattered, and I'm just trying to kind of glue myself back together, but I'll always have cracks from this, and I'll never be the same person as I was before him. And that's, it's kind of a beautiful thing because I feel like this new version of myself is a lot more empathetic, is a lot more enjoyed every day. Life is really short, and for some, his life was only those like 8.5 months inside of me, and for that, I'm just so sorry for him, and I'm sorry for us too.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the future holds, but he'll always be my third child and my son.
Yeah. That's a sweet thing to think about.
Yeah.
Cristen, I do want to ask, you guys chose the name Dane. Was
Yes.
there a particular reason for choosing that name?
It was my husband's favorite name. We had like a top three going on in when we were in the hospital, because of course we thought we had 5 more weeks to kind of figure it out, but we were in the hospital. He was like, "It's Dane, it's Dane." I was like, "Yeah, it's Dane." And we just liked a strong, short, kind of masculine
Yeah.
name, and we thought it went with Marlo, Gwen, and Dane. We thought
Yeah.
it was kind of went well together, and I think it suits him. I like to think about what his little personality would be like, and I didn't touch on his. We didn't. We chose to not do a big memorial service for
Hmm.
him. we we kind of went away for a little staycation with the girls on his birthday, or on his due dates,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. And we were at the beach and just kind of really reflected, just because part of me, and for that, I might do something in the future. I want to make sure I'm honoring him and respecting him and not being, ashamed or embarrassed, because I think I go through that a lot. Like, gosh, this is almost like, because I know people can be very quick to judge, like, gosh, what did she do?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
she must have, because I think to protect themselves, they want to think it'll never happen to them. So I'm sure they're like, gosh, she must have been, picking those girls up all the time. Or, you just
There's a
know how people
reason.
are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They want
Yeah.
to
And
find some
so
reason.
I'm working on that. But to have a memorial service, and again with COVID, no one was having large gatherings. It just felt like, what were people going to say? Like, I think we would have all shared what we wanted to do with him and his future. And just to maybe have my girls around for that, and to even put myself through that, I was like, I just can't do that right now. I'm going to honor him how I know how.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I think about him, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't. And just sharing his story like today. And I've tried to reach out to a lot of people that I know have been in pain, and suffering's inevitable in this life. And I just, the fact that we had to go through it is just, it's part of life. It's part of our story now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard part of the story, but it's part of your story.
Yeah.
A couple of other questions that I just was thinking
Yeah.
about. So, with your family, it sounds like a lot of your family lives in California also, kind of close by. And
Yes.
so, do you feel like that they understood what happened? Do you feel like that they are
I
mourning
do.
also?
Yeah. And I could do a better job kind of sharing and opening up. And I do have like a handful of people that I'm able to do that with. And I know they've lost their grandson, and I just I think there is some education around what happened when this happens to someone. You kind of like, I remember having a phone call with my dad, and I was like, I gave birth like that. I had to do that. Like, just, because I feel like people don't even want to go there. They don't even want to hear it. They don't want to think about it. And I told like a really small group of friends his birth story, and I've only shared his photo with, well, my husband has seen the photos, and my best friend, but, I don't know, part of it feels like secret. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I know there's a lot of people that are really open with posting photos, but, I think I'm more of a private person, although I'm on this podcast sharing it with whoever listens. But I don't
Yeah.
know. It's everybody is so different.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's really tricky. Because yeah, you
Yeah.
don't quite know how people are going to react to photos or discussions about it. Because some people, when you think that they're okay to hear it, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
the reactions are different and sometimes more different than you expect. So
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. But no, there's, and it's hard when, I remember going to house shortly after, and nobody brought it up. No one mentioned it. No
mm,
one said anything. And so that was, and I think this experience has made me share what's on my mind more, because I don't really care. Because I know,
yep.
life is short. I've been through hard things. I can do hard things. And so I told her, or my husband told her, and I actually shared with them, which I recommend everyone read. It's Cup of Joe.
Oh,
Do you have that
yeah,
web? Okay,
uh-huh.
that there's a really wonderful stillbirth article, and she talks about how people, not bringing it up is so painful, and all we're kind of looking for is like acknowledgement,
Hmm.
and that their lives mattered, that they are part of your family. So we kind of told them that, and they were like, we need to be braver. We need to bring it up. It's just, it's uncomfortable. And but my thing is like, it's part of us now, and
Yeah,
he's part of us, and you got to, welcome him in. He's our new family member in
yeah,
this really bizarre way.
yeah.
So And I think I think being open about it and talking about it, because we expect people to bring it up to us. But I think I've learned you need to kind of lead
Yeah.
in some situations.
Right. Yeah. Because there's, people don't quite know how to go about it. So, Cristen, is there anything else you want to tell us about Dane or about the experience, the birth experience or after?
He was really beautiful. He was a really cute little baby. I looked at his pictures before this, and his hands were perfect, and he really was perfect. And I feel like I will hold him again one day in some shape or form. I do. And my heart is with everybody that's listening to this, that's had to go through this, because it is never let anyone devalue what you've been through, because it is really painful and really horrible. And you deserve to curl up in a ball and cry. You deserve to be by yourself. You deserve to be surrounded by people. Just do what you need to do to get through, because you're not, some days you won't want to get through, but you have to. We can do it.
Yeah.
I feel like we're a little tribe now.
Yeah, it is true.
It's a club nobody wants to be a part of.
Yep. It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Thank you, Cristen. That was really...
Thank you. I hope you could hear me through my... I knew I would cry, but maybe not this much. Sorry.
No, it was perfect. I'm so grateful that you were able to share about Dane, and hopefully that helps along the way of your process too. So
yeah, it does. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Cristen. That was such a beautiful story of Dane, and listening to it just hit home how close our stories were for our son, and just how hard and terrible and how difficult this process is. But I'm so grateful that Cristen was willing to share and to let us see how she has coped with all of this during this crazy time. So thank you, Cristen, for your time and for your showing your heart. Head over to our website, stillapartofus.com, where you can find the show notes, including a full transcript of this interview and any resources that were mentioned, where you can sign up for a short and helpful email newsletter, where you can learn how to become a patron and support the work it takes to produce this show for just a few dollars a month. And lastly, where you can find out how to get in touch with us if you want to share your child's story on the show. The show was produced and edited by Winter and Lee Red. Thanks to Josh Woodward for letting us use his song Flickering Flame. You can find him at joshwoodward.com. Lastly, subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us.
Time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. Marth Trolley Curtin.